Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to Season 2 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. And for those of you that don't know, Kit's is a leading source of keep in touch marketing here in the real estate industry, offering the most personalized and customized marketing available. This is episode 104. She is the National Director of Social Sales for Fidelity National Financial and a nationally recognized real estate keynote speaker who teaches sales professionals how to leverage social media and technology to build a powerful personal brand and develop content that generates real leads. She is a national social selling coach and a speaker for top title insurance sales executives nationwide who has developed one of the only curriculums focused on using social platforms. A 20-year real estate industry veteran who became a licensed agent in 2001 BF, before Facebook, and who did business the old-fashioned way for a decade. Today, she merges old-school strategies with new-school technology to teach others how to become more human by using tech. She's a frequent podcast and live stream guest, sharing actionable insights and tactics to help agents develop a powerful personal brand. She has been an Inman Innovator of the Year Nominee in 2018 and 2019 and is the creator and host of the Voice of Social Sales podcast. Her latest book, What to Post, launched in February 2020 and is a #1 bestseller in 6 categories. This week on the show, I am joined by my good friend, Chelsea Peitz. Chelsea, welcome back to the Mindshare Podcast.
Yay, I'm so excited to be back. Thank you for having me. Of course, it's always wonderful to spend time with you.
Oh my God, it's a blast. I'm excited that you're here today. Thank you. I know you're uber busy. So I want to jump right into this thing here. You know, we're seeing, obviously, with everything going on with COVID and the fact that we've all been locked down and isolated and everything else, when we look at technology, it's obviously changed the game big time in terms of how we communicate with each other, how we network with each other, and, well, all that good stuff. And obviously, I will continue to say this is a belly-to-belly, person-to-person business. It's a relationship business. However, and we actually went over this back in, where were we last year? Arizona, I think it was, when we did the Chicago title event. And we did that presentation where like the 5 of us were kind of like piggybacking off of one another. And I recall that in my presentation, I opened up and said, if you leverage social media the right way, you can literally build relationships with people. And whether you see each other in person on a regular basis or not, it's like you know each other on a regular basis. Right? And there's the power of social. So, you know, but we know that a lot of people still have questions and challenges and all that good stuff. When somebody says to you, I need help with my social media, what is the absolute first thing that you say back to them?
Well, this is good timing that we're having this conversation because I was just on another webinar before this talking about how I'm changing my content strategy and some of my teachings because of what's happened in the world with COVID and new things that have come out. And, you know, we've always been very passionate about the relationship building and the face-to-face. And I am a firm believer that, you know, it face-to-face, whether it's through a screen or in person, of course we'd want to be in person, but you can still create that relationship, a human relationship through your devices and through social media. So, you know, one of the things that I would ask them is what are they doing? Are they focused on creating content? Because I like to take a step back and say, okay, content is very stressful for the majority of us. Let's take back and think about how we can leverage this tool to stay connected to other people, because there's such a value in the connection piece, the conversations and the comments and the direct messages that really do build your brand and have this side effect, if you will, that where the platform's going to favor that. They'd rather see you use your tools as a text message, as your phone, as your webinar platform of choice. They want people to be connecting and communicating through it. So I would say, let's start there. Sometimes I pull people back and say, let's just stop posting for a while.
Yeah.
And then if I have somebody that is kind of plateaued, maybe they've been doing social media for a while, I'll look at either the type of content that they're creating, and then we'll look at trends, and we'll talk a lot about product psychology and behavior training and neuroscience, which I geek out on. I love that. Those are my
Love that
favorite.
stuff. Yeah, for sure.
And what is really trending right now with social media, and not so much because it's a quote unquote trend, but because these products are so good at training our behaviors. And when behaviors change, expectations follow. And what used to work may not work in the same format or the same style. And we have to be aware of that. And sometimes that's what happens. And sometimes these trends come up and we're so used to doing the same thing. And we've been doing these videos that are 5 minutes long for 3 years. And we've got our stuff that's been going and happening and our rhythm, right? We're really good at it. And we're like, no, I don't want to change that. What do you mean? No.
What do you mean I got to change everything I've been doing? I'm just getting consistent
Right?
now.
Exactly. I get that. So, really depends on the person and their level of where they feel comfortable with social media. Are they beginner, intermediate, advanced? But truly, I tell people, let's stop thinking about a checklist, the content. Let's start thinking about using it to talk to people. Because right now, really, that's the only way we're talking. And if you're not on Zoom and you don't have my Zoom link, you're not going to find me. Social media is the only way that I'm seeing people in the last 9 months. And I would imagine for the foreseeable future to come. And so that shift, even though when we go back to a quote unquote normal, when we're not in a pandemic, people have realized there's a lot of value in a Zoom call. And even though I can go down the street, or 30 minutes to go have a meeting with someone, maybe that's something that we can just talk about for a quick 5 minutes face-to-face over Zoom. So we have to look at how this has shaped sort of our behavior going forward, because it's much more of an impact than I think people are thinking it is.
Okay, so I'm sitting there and let's go off the fact that I guess I'm wondering how to approach that. If I'm the beginner, the intermediate, the expert, I mean, I would like to say that for myself. I don't know if I want to consider myself expert, but I'd say that I am consistent. I am there. I've been doing it a long time. And I certainly do, when we talk about have a conversation with people, that's the bigger angle that I've got outside of all the posting. The big thing is, engaging with people on my different platforms, having conversations, getting involved in conversations. If somebody likes or comments, I want to respond to that and engage back, because that's like the same thing. It's like somebody walking down the street and be like, hey, how you doing? And you say absolutely nothing. It's just weird. Like,
Right.
why don't you say hi back? Why don't you give a smile or give a
We
like or
wouldn't
something?
do that. That we would feel weird, right? Exactly.
Exactly. So what would somebody do then if they're sitting there going, okay, I get it. So you're telling me have more conversations, get more involved. I'm just scared. Like, I don't know. I don't think that like people want to hear from me, or maybe I'm just scared to click the button, or I don't know if I'm going to say the right thing. What are they going to think? What do we say
I
to that?
think you should think of it like giving someone a compliment and brightening their day. It's pretty rare that someone, especially someone you're connected to on a social platform. Now, some people you may be connected to that you don't know, but generally speaking, especially if it's somebody that may be a past client, somebody that you've worked with, if you compliment, if you give shout outs, if you say, this was really helpful, or this was such a cute video, thanks for posting it, it brought a smile to my face, I really appreciate it. When we coming from a place of gratitude and contributing to the conversation, asking curious questions, and also complimenting people, making them feel good, that's a place where I think most of us feel as though we can thrive, even if you're nervous about a lot of things on social media. Because when you are doing something that's positive and helpful, you feel good because you've now just helped somebody else in their content get more reach, and they see your name and they see that you're the person associated with that positive experience. And truly, there are a lot of people that I've never met personally, and I'm kind of speaking on Instagram, because sometimes on Instagram, you're not using your first and last name. So sometimes I may not know, like it could be like the mortgage professional or something along those lines. And I will say to people, remind me what your username is. And they'll tell me, and I say, yes, I know exactly who you are. And of course I know who they are because they're talking to me and supporting my content. And I'm remembering that. And to your lingo, they've built that little piece of mind share, but they also build a little piece of the emotional share, because I appreciate it. People know the people who support their content. We remember that. And so that part, I think most people probably won't feel too nervous if you're coming from a place of thinking, how could I brighten someone's day today? How could I let them know that they made me feel good today? How can I thank them for something? And oftentimes what we see on social media, we can pull out something like that. If they're, showing the cute picture of their kiddos, first school picture, which I know we're doing, we have pictures for first day of school or whatnot, or holiday things. It's pretty easy to come up with something that, you can make someone feel great about that they've posted.
So it's really get engaged with other people is probably the first
Mm-hmm.
step there. If you want to up your social game, again, aside from just posting anything, and
Mm-hmm.
when, I mean, kind of, coin today's topic as the art of sales on social media. Um, there's the flip side to that too, that says, hey, I don't want to be sold, period. Like, I don't care if you're in person, if it's through even through your advertising, like nobody wants to be sold. Right.
Right.
So when we look at social media, the idea behind it is instead of just posting and saying, look what I did, or look at my listings, look at my solds, or look at this financing I did. It now instead goes, look, again, keep the posts aside,
Mm-hmm.
start to engage with other people, start to make people feel good about maybe what they posted.
Yeah. So, and here's a concept, and we're both parents, so
Yeah.
I know that you'll resonate with this. I like to pull things and examples outside of our industry and outside of social media, because
Yep.
sometimes we get in this like box of, but I don't really understand that. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody is a salesperson. Everybody needs to market, right? So we say to ourselves, well, how am I going to get any deals then if I'm not letting people know that I could take their referrals? It's you earn your opportunity to ask for those in some cases. And here's an example from parenting. If my son cleaned his room without me asking, when he asked me for the extra dessert at night, I'm probably going to give it to him, because he already sort of like did something where I'm like, okay, yeah, that was that. Thank you. I appreciate it. But if he leaves his room a complete mess, his homework is late, I'm not going to give him an extra treat for the day. So you have to clean up the room first before you ask mom and dad. And sometimes you have to clean it up for a good week or a couple of months. And then you sort of earn the right. And when you're talking to people through direct message, oftentimes, especially with the industry we're in, it can become very easy to start a conversation. Gosh, you're in a place that, I sold a house in 2 years ago. I just saw the equity shot up 30%. That's awesome. You've done a really good job there. Or they might ask you how your business is doing, or you might ask them how their business has gone during this pandemic. And so you just want to have those discussions. And what happens is when people start to notice you and they start to see the person behind the realtor and behind the logo, they start to kind of, get used to you, and they might even start to like you. And they may not trust you yet, but they might just kind of get used to you. And then when you are talking about real estate and the things that you're doing, if you're sort of documenting your day and you're kind of talking about what you're doing, people are going to remember you for that. They're going to remember you for real estate. And then they might ask a question, because you might say, oh my gosh, I was just talking to a client who I sold their house 2 years ago in this particular neighborhood. They might say, oh, I'm in that neighborhood. And they just had 30% equity or whatever it may be. That could be an opportunity for them to ask you a question, because now they feel comfortable asking you a question, because you're not filling their inbox with, hey, do you want to know how much equity you have in your home? That will work. It's a numbers game, because people will feel like they need to respond. And some people are interested. But I don't like to feel people coming into my sacred space of an inbox and polite spamming me. I'm not talking about the spammers. I'm talking about the polite spammers who are like, hey, just wanted to let you know I was here. If I could ever help you out. That's a polite spam. Because now you've put somebody in a position to have to say, oh, well, thanks, but I'm already working with someone, or thanks, I'm not interested. And they sometimes, I feel bad when I do that. And then there's this like awkwardness sometimes of, oh my gosh, there's a direct message from this person. Are they going to be talking about, their pitch again? Or so we want people to feel excited to open up our messages, and not that it's always only just that sales pitch.
And so the idea again comes back to just engage with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of the first part, right? I mean, and I love the way you place that of, he'll make his bed,
Yeah.
and we'll, if he comes to me for something else after, I'm probably more apt to say
Right.
yes to it.
You know how to get your wife to say yes. You're gonna make sure the kitchen's clean at night and help her with the cooking. Well, she probably
Sure.
won't let you. She probably won't let you help with the cooking because
No,
she's
she's the master cook, but she does have a very bad back over the past couple of weeks. So I actually have been wearing like not just this hat, but I've been driving the kids to school and picking them up and doing the dinners and everything else. And I've been really trying to carry the load because she is a champ.
she's
Just in case
amazing.
she's listening, honey, I love you.
She's amazing. She's my Shiro. She
Yeah.
is.
I know the two of you have like this whole other thing going on, which is awesome. But okay. So I get up and I'm going to do my social. And what I like to share with people about, when we're doing our mindshare building, and a lot of this is going out and being proactive each day, not just reactive to other people's messages. And that goes across not just social, but we're talking email, phone calls, whatnot. Be proactive about reaching out and building a relationship. This is what we're saying right now is this is part of the building mindshare. It's just, you're there. People know you. They begin to like and trust you because you're not pitching people. And then at some point, there's this inclination from the other side to go, hey, I had a question about, or can you help me with? And so what we're saying here is really just get involved in the conversation. So then let me ask you this. If I was to get up in the morning, because again, I'll tell people, I want you doing your IPAs every single day. And I want you to focus a certain period of time on doing that. And each channel should be sort of checked off every day. So if you're going to go through your social media, and I mean, although I can probably lend to a little bit of this and know the answer here, but for everybody listening, when we look at the different platforms and we know that, I know some of the ones you love, but do we go, focus only on Facebook, focus only on Instagram? I mean, I know LinkedIn has sort of made its rebirth over the past number of months. We've really all been very active on that. Twitter just launched stories, right? Again, I'm not a big Twitter person, but what's your deal like in terms of if we're talking to that individual who is not on the full consistent train of being involved with social, but they really want to up their game? Which platform or platforms would you suggest? And again, why would we go to one or go to multiple?
Well, I generally tell people that social media platforms are not like kids, which is a good thing. You get to pick a favorite if you want to. And I only have one, so I have a favorite, but I know you have two, and certainly I'm sure you do not have a favorite child. So, it's okay to spend more time in a place that you just enjoy more. And I have my favorite because I enjoy that environment more. And it doesn't mean that I don't use the other ones. But for me, I don't want to be spending all day and feel overwhelmed by going to all the places. So I pick the one that I like the best. And you're going to read a bunch of things that says, we got to be where your customers are. Well, you'd be surprised. Your customers are probably everywhere, even on things like TikTok and all the places that, Snapchat, you'll never find a community there. You'll never grow your brand there. I remember we heard all of that. So whatever you do over a long period of time, if it works for you, you can make anything work. So I think that you do in 2021 need to be on multiple platforms. I think you need to be on Facebook. I think you need to be on Instagram, and you could probably be on LinkedIn. You probably don't necessarily have to really, but I would at least have an optimized profile there, and I would still engage with other people's content on that platform. And so I really do think Facebook and Instagram are a requirement.
Cool. And I mean, I know those are two of my favorites personally. I mean, again, I'm active with LinkedIn. I just don't enjoy it as much. It's just not as much fun. Maybe I don't know why. I just haven't totally taken off on that. I'm certainly not the TikToker, and we've always had these convos about Snapchat. I wasn't the Snapchatter back then, but I do. As we sort of parlay that, I love stories, and I know you love stories. So when it comes to social media stories, I mean, I know whys and whatnot, and I mean, I have a ton of fun with it. To me, it's a massive mindshare build. Like if I click on your story more often, you're always going to appear at the top of my feed every time I log in. To me, that's just a good mindshare hack. But what would you say to people in terms of which platform they should be using to post their stories? Is there one preferred? And then, where could they get started with that? Like, I mean, what kind of ideas and tips can we share to people on that? Because I know you love your stories.
I do. I love my stories, and I just like it because it's like watching TV that talks back, and I'm like, oh, this is so great. And then I'm like, I don't even want to watch like a post anymore in the feed because I can't engage with it.
It's not to say, right?
So, you get kind of used to things, and I always loved stories, as you mentioned. You've known that about me, but I will say during COVID, I did not realize that it was my only sense of normalcy. I wasn't seeing it. And we started quarantine March 13th. I mean, now we're in November, almost, yeah, no, how many months later? Is that 9 months later to the
9 months,
day?
yeah, exactly.
That's a long time. And, we've learned a lot about what's it like for human interaction and how much we need it and what happens when you don't have it. And opening up my stories was the only time during the day that I felt like I was still connected with people in more of an intimate human way
Was
than
that,
just
sorry, was that you posting, or was that both you posting and engaging with others?
both.
Yeah,
And
okay.
for me, it was watching. It was consuming and seeing people's faces and hearing their voices and being able to talk to them. That for me was like the only thing I wanted to do, because I craved seeing people. I remember like the first couple of months, I was like waving at strangers like on the street, like, hi,
Right. But
hey,
that's what COVID did. It made us all happy.
so it was really a sweet spot for me that I kind of still got to feel like I was connected with people. And so how do we get involved with stories? Well, the main platform for stories is of course Instagram, and they have about 350,000 stories posted every minute, so it's saturated there. There's a lot. Many people gravitate towards stories more so now even than the feed. And so this concept of like micro content, if we can just kind of generalize it,
Mm-hmm.
human micro content, in micro in that it's very short, um, you know 10 seconds, 15 seconds, even less. I would primarily recommend videos with your face in it so that you can build that human brand. People need to see your face now more than ever. And you need to show up, you need to show your face, and people are going to get used to hearing your voice and seeing your face, and all of that matters. So I would start by, doing a lot of videos. I would show your face. Instagram, it's, main form of communication there. Facebook, it hasn't quite taken off nearly as much as Instagram, but that means that it's an unsaturated marketplace, and you can definitely make sure that your little, square there with your name and your face is showing up before anything else shows up in the feed and you have to scroll past it. So you kind of get the billboard effect there. LinkedIn has stories. Nobody's using it. So you have zero competition there, and that's definitely something that you could capitalize on.
So nobody using it. Would you say go and use it then?
Yeah, when I do classes and we're talking about LinkedIn, now granted I'm in marketing, and so
Yeah.
are you. So we
Yeah.
have a lot more people using it because they're in the industry. But when I talk to people who are not in marketing and I say, I want you to open up your LinkedIn app right now, and I want you to tell me how many active bubbles you see. The average answer is 1.5. Some people say 3, some people say 2, but it's usually 1. So that's very low. Imagine opening up your Instagram and seeing one bubble. You're like, well, Instagram's broken. So there's no one using it. Now, the other thing that I love about stories is it's easy. It's fast content creation. It's the fastest and most human form of content you can make, because all I have to do is pick up my phone and talk to it and then post it. Now, when I make an Instagram reel, my gosh, I have to edit. I have to pick music. I have to do all these things. If I'm making a post in LinkedIn, I have to have a headline and bullet points and a call to action and hashtags. And I'm 30 minutes into the post, right? So I don't love making posts in the feed, because to do it well takes time. And I
I
don't
am
really.
so with you there. Stories, like that's the beauty of stories. I mean, I call it like it's raw. It's just fun. You can do whatever. One of our mindshare masters, who is right now watching from our VIP room, just asked, "How do you know what to do or talk about in the videos?" She's just gotten started with it, and I'm real proud of her because she has started doing video, and they're getting better. But she did ask the question and says, "This is new for me and scary. What
Yes.
advice do you have for her or for everybody?"
I just want to tell you that it's okay to be scared, and I think that means you're in the right place. And I was scared too when stories came out, and I was terrified when reels came out. So even though we're in the biz, we still are human and we experience that. So don't let that stop you. kind of like being terrified when I remember taking driver's ed when I was like 16. And I was like, wait a minute, you want me to go out on the freeway? No. And now it's like, oh yeah, no, we have self-driving cars. It's totally fine. So you just have to do something for a while, and then, it becomes a habit and it gets easier. So ideas for content. Well, our friend Gary V, he doesn't know that we're, he's our
yeah, he's just our friend. But like,
call him that. He had this brilliant statement that I tell everybody, and it just really reduces content stress, and specific to stories. He said, document, don't create. A lot of us have this stress around content. Okay, today I got to make a post or a video. What kind of educational tip am I going to give? Or what? Because we have this idea around value, and we think value has to be in a very specific package. But value can be in all shapes and sizes. Value can be making someone smile. Value could be saying something relatable that people get. So there's a lot of value in the very everyday, mundane things that you can document. And I always give people this example. I never prepare for this either. This is just all off the cuff. Every time somebody asks me about document, not creating content, I'm like, okay, let's do it right now. I'm going to pick stuff off of my desk right now. We're going to do it live. So I don't have my ring light in here, but normally I do. Okay. I'm going to pick up my glasses, and you can even see my window here. Us and ring lights in our glasses, because it bounces off of it, right? And I even have like the special ones. I would talk about that. I would say, okay, is it just me, or when you're shooting a video or are on Zoom, how come they don't have a Shark Tank idea for glasses that don't have reflections now that everybody's at home working from home, right? That could be an idea. The next one, I have my podcasting mic here. I actually did a reel on my podcasting equipment yesterday. Wasn't planning on it, just happened to be on a podcast. I was like, well, since this is already out, I could ask people questions. Hey, does anybody listen to podcasts? Does anybody have a microphone? This one, okay, here's a good one. I'm old school, as funny as that may sound, and I write lists every day. I could do a story. Does anybody write lists every day? And like, do you highlight it when you're done? Do you write stuff in just to cross it off like I do? So you can pick these mundane things that are just all around us. And it's all in how you ask people to engage with it. It's all in how you ask people to look at it. Now, if I just took a picture of my list and put nothing on it, that's not going to do anything. But if I took a video or a picture of my list and said, who else loves making lists? Who likes to get journals? Do you have a special pen? I actually have special pens. Nobody in the house is allowed to use these pens but me. Brian's not allowed to use them. Mason's not allowed to use them. These are my special pens that I like. I could even talk about that I have a special pen. And am I a weirdo because I will only let me use these pens? If I see anyone using these pens in my house, I have a fit. I bet you other people have things for pens too.
Hey, I got my pen. I don't go anywhere without this pen.
These are my favorite pens.
Yeah, I put this pen on like as soon as like I'm getting dressed in the morning, the pen goes on. And that some people go like, that's weird, dude. And I'm like, they're like, here, I've got a pen for you. I'm like, no.
You know what? You're not the only weird person.
I got to use my pen.
People that are weird with you, and when they find out that you're weird, like they're weird, they're like, we found each other. Yay!
I'm going to clip that particular spot and send it to my wife just so that I say, Chelsea said I'm not the only weird one out there.
You're not the only weird one. Like, these are my pens. And I have had many a conversation when I found a pen, because my boys like to bend them when they're doing something, they don't think about it, where I have found a bent cap and I walk in, I'm like, who did this? I know somebody was touching my pen. And they're like, yeah.
but you see, and there's the beauty of it, right? Like, I mean, you've just literally simplified the entire process. And that's again, the sort of echo of what I try to say to anybody is like, look, pick up the thing, look into the lens and start talking. If you saw a sign that you want to talk about it. Today I talked about, I mean, as I tried to, sort of also add in the fact that we were going live today, right? I talked about the fact that it was snowing outside and I drove the kids to school. And it's, some people would go, yeah, but why does anybody care?
Yeah, but you know what? I care, and I don't have snow.
And this is the thing.
And I would say, oh my gosh, I'd love to have snow right now. That looks awesome. Like, it's like 80 here, and we want to wear jeans. So there's so much value in lurkers too. Like so many people are like, well, how many posts am I going to have to make before I get a transaction?
I will certainly trade you the snow for those swallows, cactus. I learned this when I was down with Chelsea last year. They're called swallows. They're not just called cactuses, but I will certainly trade those up. So here, you brought up Reels. Talk to me. I mean, and look, I have not, I think, okay, hold on. I think TikTok is a lot of fun. And the problem is like, they're brilliant because you try to swipe out of that thing and they're like, no, we're taking you right back to the top. So you got to hit it like 3 times. You'd be like, no, I want out. And then
Yeah.
it was an hour later. So I really stay the hell away from it. But it is fun.
Yes.
I did off the top
It's a
when
wormhole.
this whole like COVID thing happened, it was like, oh, cool. And I did a couple with Joshua, like the one with like that cool music and like you're holding him by his head and kind of like lift him back up. And we did those types of things. I thought, I don't have the time for all this editing. And now I see these reels and I'm like, no way. And I
Mhm.
mean, I think it might have been you who's like, dude, finally, IGTV, like hurry up, stop with just like the feed, but like get into the IG. And I finally broke in. I did it. But
Mhm.
this thing with reels, this thing with TikTok and editing, you just brought it up. I don't feel like I got the
Overwhelming.
time for it. But what's the deal? Stories, reels, talk to me.
Overwhelming. I get it. I get it. It was so funny when Reels came out in the US. I can't remember if we got it first or they usually test in Canada first, but I can't remember. I think we got it and I remember I had like 20 messages the day we got it. Hey, how do you use this? What are best practices? I'm like, I just got it 4 hours ago. I don't know. Let me try it out. So I've done a ton of testing and, I'm still in testing mode and I'll be in testing mode
Sure.
probably for another 6 months, but Reels is extremely intimidating for many people for a variety of reasons. Number one, there's a lot of buttons. There's a lot of editing, and that in and of itself is overwhelming. You have to learn a new system, but it's just like learning, I don't know, we call it, MLS. I don't know if it's multiple
Same thing.
listing.
Yeah.
So I remember when I learned that was kind of a, well, back then, I mean, surprised we had computers back then, but, it was clunky and a lot of, buttons, and to like enter in a listing when I was an agent took an hour or more because it was like, oh my gosh. And I had to figure out how to do all that. But then when I got used to it, I was like, okay, 10 minutes took me to put that listing in. So it's just like anything else. Once you figure out the buttons, okay, so that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is it's a different kind of content that's working. And most of us are used to either story content now or like educational content. And that's not really working on that style of content. And so what's going to happen is because TikTok is so big and because Instagram is going to force Reels to become a big thing, you're just going to get exposed to it more and more. And just like anything else, the more we're exposed to something, the more normal it becomes. And then when it becomes a little bit more normal, we start to expect it, like Uber and Netflix and all the things. And so we're in the behavior training process right now. We're getting trained. And then what's going to happen in a couple of years is people are going to be like, why isn't my content working anymore? Why aren't these educational videos that I've been doing that are 10 minutes long? Why aren't they getting any traction? It's not because that content isn't good and valuable and that you shouldn't do educational content. It's that we've just become trained by different styles and formats of content. And I'd rather watch a 15-second tutorial than a 15-minute tutorial.
Right.
And I'd really rather watch something kind of entertaining that hits the emotion and makes me laugh or makes me smile than maybe even some, tips or how-tos. So it is going to change content and it is going to change how we are going to be expected to make content. And I really do think that going forward, it's going to be stories content and sort of this educational content and entertaining content. And these are going to be the net, right? You're going to throw out the net, you're going to get more people. So that's how you're going to grow, how you're going to get put in the feed. And then once these people find you and follow you, then they get to really know you and love you in the stories. And I have people that have said, I found you from watching your reel, and now I've been watching your stories for 2 months, and I'm like so excited that I found you. And so that's you need the two. You need the 2 punch, right? You need to get them in, and then you need to keep them in. And so that's kind of this structure that I see content going in.
So when you do that then, and you do the So hold on. Are you suggesting then that if you've got a Instagram presence and it is a platform that you are on a regular basis and you do engage with others, that get over it, like start getting involved in reels and do it yesterday?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, the algorithm is like crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And I think it was about a week or two ago that I got on my socials and was like, hey, mark this day down. I am telling you, they turned on the algorithm for
Yeah.
reels. It's
Okay.
crazy. Stop what you're doing. I don't even care if it's a terrible video. You'll
Get
get like
involved.
3,000 views.
Okay. So then that takes me to my next question then.
Yeah.
Because we've got another question here from one of our mindshare messages asking about content planning.
Mhm.
And I mean, on the general sense of content planning, it can be overwhelming for most people. And I know for myself, I was for a while doing the 30-day content planner. And I
Mhm.
mean, I'll tell you, like I would sit down with a couple Heinekens and I'd, try to, map out my big desktop counter with my pencil and my eraser. And I'd start thinking and be racking my brain. I would sit there for hours on like a Friday night. And then
Yeah.
when it was done, it was the best feeling ever because like, there is no thinking involved anymore. Right.
Yeah.
But that was very arduous. That's very time. It's a time constraint. It is consuming. You got to be in the right mental state of mind, and if you're not, it could take forever. So I actually went away from that only because I got into a groove of just being able to, again, think on the fly and be able to put stuff up with zero fear of posting, right?
Mhm.
Zero thought around, oh my God, are they going to like it? Are they not going to like it? So I go. But
Mhm.
content planning is one of these big overwhelming things for many people. And so, the question was how and where do you start? Um, she says here, like right now, she flies by the seat of her pants as most things come up, which again, I've just sort of said, like, that's not a bad thing, right? But she does want to be more consistent, more intentional about building the platform, about building the brand. And so, the question becomes, how do you plan what to post? Do you plan what would be the idea around content strategy? And I mean, that is like a big triple question mark when it comes to reels, at least for me, because I'm going, what would
Yeah.
I post? You know what I mean?
So
Whereas stories, it's like pick it up and go.
I think that the number one thing that I talk about with content, and I'm a little bit of a social media rule breaker
Yeah.
myself. I don't batch content, I don't plan content. And
Okay.
a lot of people are shocked when they hear that. I have tried for years.
It's
I
a
wrote
lot.
I wrote 2 books. I believe in content. My brain just doesn't work that way. And I
Right.
wish it would. I wish I could be one of those people that was able to do that. My brain just doesn't allow it. And I've tried for years, and now I'm going to embrace how my brain works. So I think the first thing that you need to identify is, what personality style are you? Are you a personality style like us, where it's really hard for us and it becomes like a thing that you're going to dread and you don't want to do it? Or does that give you so much joy to be like, oh, I'm so ready. I've got all my content ideas and it felt great. And I got them all on paper and I know what I'm going to do. It's kind of like me and like working out. I could get on the scale every day. I don't, because I just know my personality. I don't want to be fixated on, okay, well, I'm up like 4 pounds or 5 pounds or whatever. I just want to feel good. How do my clothes feel? Did I get a workout in? Did I move my body? And for me, that's great. Some people like to write their macros and they have an app, and for them, that is it. So you need to know what works for you. Now, the next thing that I do, as somebody who can't pre-plan content, I still write down ideas, but now I'm not stressed. Now I have an idea list, and I add to my idea list probably every day. And something might come up and I might write it down. And I might not get to my idea list for 6 months, but at least I know then I have it there. It's kind of like that bank account where you have a savings and you're like, I'm not going to need to use it. It's there if I want to. So you kind of like reduce the stress. And for me, when my stress is reduced, I find that I come up with a lot more ideas. But if I try to make it happen, it's really difficult, at least for
Yeah,
me.
totally. Well, I'll add on to that. Like I use Trello, and I've
Mhm.
actually got a board that I create called the Mindshare Idea Box, and
Mhm.
it's a dumping ground. Like I'll hear something, oh my God, where do I write it? Boom, I go in there and I
Yep.
put it in.
Yep.
And then when I am sort of either stumped or wanting to have something that I know I've got to create a little bit of artwork around or whatever it is, I can go right back there and go, there's something.
Mhm.
And so much
And
the same for,
yeah.
everybody tuned in. And Andrew brought this up last week, and our friend Andrew Foliato.
Mhm.
Andrew brought this up last week talking about the, how did he coin it? It was the 10 most common questions you get asked, and then the 10 most common questions that people don't ask, but they should ask.
Mhm.
And it was like right there, you get a bunch of content. So that's one way. We just had somebody else ask, do you still use the 5 E's of content that you had brought up in the past?
I do. Yeah. I think that there's levels of the ease that people will relate to you more with. And I'm very focused right now on human relatable content. And I think the easiest way to create that is through stories. And again, being the person behind the realtor. And also too, when you think in terms of content, the only original content you have is your daily life. And the only other content that nobody else is going to post is your daily life. And so the only other kind of content that you don't have to think about because you're living your daily life is your daily life. So if you want to talk about the easiest content to make, and honestly with the most impact, it's going to be the emotional, it's going to be the engaging, it's going to be the entertaining. Entertaining, I've always said, is the hardest out of the 5 E's. I'm still going to do educational content because that's how I built my brand and I enjoy teaching people. That's my platform. But I'm adding in more entertaining content and seeing how that's working. And on Instagram Reels, I have a video now that has like 400,000 views.
Wow.
I posted it like 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And it was not an educational tip. My educational tips do not outperform, but it is what it is.
So what about now? There was something you had posted, I don't know, a few weeks ago. It feels like yesterday, but it's probably like 3 months ago now. I don't even know. I'm pretty certain it was you who actually brought up the topic of hashtags on Facebook. Am I right?
I
What's the
definitely
deal
talked
there?
about that. Yeah.
Pardon?
So
Okay. Yes, no. I mean, we used to do it. Then we were like, don't do it. Now it's kind of like, should you do it?
It's so interesting. All these platforms are changing. And today, Instagram changed again, and it was related to search. And so Instagram historically has been, if you don't use hashtags, or really one of the only ways you can search is with hashtags. Well, today they changed that. That's a big deal. Facebook has kind of, always just been sort of like search whatever you want, but nobody uses it because they always go to like Google or whatever that is. So it's always just been sort of like you can search by hashtags, you can search by names or accounts. And I think they're trying to be more like each other. Obviously, they're owned by the same company. So I think Facebook is trying to have more type of Instagram and sort more content. And honestly, as more content is added, they have to sort it in some way. They have to use machine learning. They have to use AI. They have to know what's in the photo. They need to use hashtags. So yes, according to all the experts that I have been, listening to, hashtags are a thing on Facebook.
Okay.
And you can type them in and you should see, at least on your mobile device, you should see kind of similar to Instagram, where if you start typing in like real estate, it'll give you some other additional ones, and it should say like how many number of posts. And I think that's coming from Instagram. I think currently. So throw them in there.
Like I use it as a branding play when I put up like a hashtag Mindshare 101 or your real estate industry coach or the Mindshare podcast. I don't do it in the sense the same way I would on Insta based on like the searchability of it.
Right.
Yeah. But it seems like that's kind of where Facebook's going back to now.
Yeah. And, they tried it in 2013 and then stopped trying it. So who knows if it'll stick. But LinkedIn, since we've mentioned LinkedIn a few times, 100% need to use hashtags on LinkedIn.
Is there a certain number that you should be using on LinkedIn?
I just read a report by a really well-known LinkedIn data scientist. I think his name is, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is Richard Vanderblom.
Okay.
And he puts out an annual report about LinkedIn algorithm every year. And this most recent one came out this summer, or maybe it was this fall. And it said that originally kind of the thought process was 3 was the magic number. And now it seems as though like 3 to 7 or 3 to 9, I think was the number, is kind of where that sweet spot is for hashtags on LinkedIn.
Okay, now I'm going to take us back to Facebook for a sec here, because somebody asked me this the other day,
Mhm.
and we've seen this whole thing fluctuate throughout. Do I need a Facebook page? Should I just have my personal profile?
Yeah.
We've always got that split thing of like, should I be
Oh,
talking about business on my personal? Should I be talking about personal on my business? We know that Facebook pages, the reach is just brutal these days. So what say you? Have the page or do not have the page? And if I do, like, what am I anticipating
yeah.
to actually leverage it for?
I say change your mindset about what the page is. And a dear friend of mine, Jerry Potter, who I met through social
Jerry's been
media.
on the show. Yeah,
Yeah, you know Jerry.
of course.
He was so smart. I had him on I think I had him on a webinar, and he was like, honestly, it's just a website, but it's a free one and it has really good SEO. I'm like,
Ooh,
that's
I like
exactly right.
that.
So
Yeah,
we kind of have to have one. And let's be honest, Facebook makes you have one if you want to do certain things. And that's just how it is. So, what I do with my page, you're right. The reach is, I think, atrocious unless you are really giving like amazing content, have a large following, you're doing boosted posts and ads and all the things. I just use Facebook Creator Studio and I schedule out posts, but I'm always writing something original. I'm trying to optimize it as much as I can. And I just want it to be used as a website where people can find it. People can go there. They can find me on other platforms because I put my information. And if you have reviews, I think it's great. We're a review culture and people are more likely to go to Facebook for reviews now than many other places because they're used to Facebook. And guess what? It's going to be the top search result because Facebook is a really big website.
for real.
So yeah, you have to have one, I would say.
How often would you post to it?
I'm currently posting once a week,
Okay.
and
How
yeah,
often are you posting your Instagram feed?
not very often. I spend more of my time in stories and
I
reels.
yeah.
That's what Instagram is looking for. And Instagram's a little bit different. Like you don't have to show up all the time. I think I'm on like week 3 or 4 without posting in my feed, believe it or not. But I'm a good community member in their eyes because I'm doing other content.
Right.
And so I've still grown. I've grown more in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last probably 3 months. And I
Because
haven't
of
even posted.
reels.
Mhm.
Go figure.
And
Now,
quite
what
frankly,
about,
I'll just be
sorry?
honest. I'm human. I don't have time for that. I don't know. I don't want to make a post in the feed and do stories and do a reel. I'm tired. I don't want to do any of that. And it's just me. So I get it. Like we're all in the same boat. Like I am a human being and sometimes I just don't want to post. I'm not in the mood and that's okay. I'm giving you permission to not post.
So you've got once a week on your Facebook business page. What about your personal timeline?
It really is kind of hit or miss. Like my goal would be once a week. Like if I really was sticking to my goals, it'd probably be once a week to just the feeds in general, LinkedIn feed, Instagram. And I'd
Instagram.
pick one idea and I would tweak it and put it in the
Right.
different places. So I'm
Okay.
not
But
like,
stories and reels is the focus then right now in terms of you.
yeah, I have
Okay.
to pick one place. Plus with my niche, people are wanting education on those things. So
Right.
I've got to be focusing on those things. And I'm just only have so many hours in the day
For
and so
sure.
much attention. And I'm okay with only, showing up big in one place that I really want to show up big on.
The other day, maybe a couple weeks ago, Facebook gave me a little notification and said, I don't remember what it was called, but it basically said you can, link your Instagram and your Facebook, which we already knew was already there, but it actually gave me an option to link my Instagram to not just my business Facebook, but my personal Facebook, which all of a sudden my stories on Facebook took a total turn in a positive way because when
Mhm.
it was Instagram to Facebook business page, my
Mhm.
stories were like 0 on business page. But then the minute I went personal, everything climbed.
Yeah.
So would you be linking your Instagram to your personal, to your business? Do you have an opinion on that?
I think your Instagram account should be a creator account right now. There's 3 different kinds of accounts. There's personal, business, and creator. And creator is the only one that will allow you to have access to music. And if you're going to be making reels, that's an important element of it. And when you have the creator account, it acts, it will connect to your personal Facebook stories, not your business page Facebook stories. So if you have a business account on Instagram, it only can go to your business. So business to
Right.
business, personal to personal. Can't go business to personal. Just doesn't work that way.
So get a creator account.
Yeah, I would say creator. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Now, what about spending money on social? Is this a must? Is this something I know people are trying to spend the money to make it work? And it's like, you know what, Chelsea, I just don't have the time for all this. I'm going to go hire somebody to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
Yeah.
I say big no. Like I'm just totally against that. And you've also mentioned the word boost, and we've heard a lot about like don't boost. I know Travis talks about going to this, actually create ads and whatnot. Do you believe in boosting? And then do you believe in spending the dollars?
So social media ad spend is probably hands down the most cost-effective way to get in front of people that you want to target because of the targeting capabilities. And it's still a lot cheaper than PPC and even, some postage and all that. Now, I think, you can definitely layer those things too. You can definitely mail to people, which is a smart idea, and then have the digital overlay, right? So now you're getting them in both places. So the ad spend is worthwhile. If you're specifically asking about outsourcing your social media, I have a pretty cut and dry opinion on that. I think if you can you can hire an agency, which is going to be a lot of money. You can hire a marketing person who works on your team, which is going to be a salary. So you can spend a good amount of money, and hopefully the agency or the marketing person that's going to be working on your team is going to spend a lot of time getting to know your culture and your brand and how you speak and your tone. But you can't 100% outsource all of it. Even if you have someone on staff, you've got to show your face because everybody else is showing their face. And if you don't have your stories or reels or whatever, and somebody else has 300 of them, by default, if I don't know either one of you, I'm going with that person first. I'm going to call them first because that's how we make decisions online. Now, so you can get help and be efficient. But if you have something for $19.99 and they're going to do your social media posts, it's not going to help your algorithm because that content probably isn't going to, I don't know what kind of content they're posting, but it's not a set it or forget it. People pay for stuff and set it up and get all their 30 posts for the month and then say, boom, go. And they're not going in and talking. They're not sending DMs. They're not commenting. And it kills your algorithm. So 5 years ago, that would work. It doesn't work anymore.
So it goes back to, if you're going to even think about spending money, you better have a good organic game.
Yeah, and people who spend money on Facebook, Travis will tell you this, people who spend money on Facebook, their ads go farther if they have an organic content strategy. If you're active and you're posting, they're going to make your ads actually perform better than somebody who's just trying to pay their way through Facebook.
Okay, now I've met somebody on social media and I want to take the conversation offline. Much the same, and I'm going to put it both together. And I've met somebody offline and I want to kind of spark that thing of going, I'd like to stay in touch with this person. I don't want to go and ask them for their mailing address, their Visa card numbers, and all this other stuff. It's what can I do to take the relationship online? So going both ways, what strategies would you suggest in that? Does that make sense?
It does. So, this just happened recently to me. So I had a new neighbor move in and I can't remember what happened, but at some point I think I said, oh, are you on, Instagram? And so I asked first. I didn't want to be like, oh, is it weird if like you're my new neighbor, which it probably, she wouldn't have thought it was weird, but I don't know. And so I just watched for a while. And then when we saw each other like in the street, I said, oh, I saw that you on your story, you had a story about X, Y, and Z. And she said, oh, I want to make sure I'm following you. And so I let her know that I was, I was helping her. She answered a question she had asked on social media. And then I started kind of commenting and she started commenting. So we just kind of just started talking, via the stories. So I think you have to slow play it just like anything else. You don't want to be the over enthusiastic person who's, just sending you a direct message every single day and commenting on everything. You don't want to be super overzealous with it. But yeah, I think that when the time comes and that an opportunity has come up to talk about your business, you know when to say it. You know when to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should just do a quick Zoom call. You know that.
Yeah.
You don't have to send a message, nor should you, that says, hey, if you know anybody that's thinking of buying or selling, think of me. No. I'm not going to think of you because you've annoyed me.
Well, and this is the thing. So it's really a gut check. And it's, again, being genuine and almost looking at it going, how would I want it to, to happen to me?
I can't teach you that. You know,
Right. Okay.
You've got to listen to your gut, and you know when it's right? It's, when it's right to say this and not say this. And when, that's why some people feel weird, like, okay, I got to do my prospecting calls. Let me call people and ask for referrals. I know I did, because that just wasn't natural for me.
Right.
And so, does that work? It sure does. There are people and coaches that make millions of dollars a year helping people really kill it on prospecting. I'm not saying it doesn't work.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you. Is social media the only thing I should be doing to generate business?
If you want to, don't have to. Personal choice. I don't do anything else with social media, and it's working great for me. But too, it's like you'll hear from people that say you've got to diversify and you have to try this. Whatever works for you, I think you should try. I don't think you should do everything. I think you should, maybe do a couple of things. And unfortunately, we can't do the in-person things anymore. It'd be like, well, we can't do the family movie night and have all of our clients come out. But people still like to get connections in multiple ways. They want to, if it's your birthday and you're sending them a card, well, that's so nice. Yeah, I see you on stories, but it's also nice that you did that little extra. Right. So I think that it's important to still keep in mind, how can you show up in different ways and in multiple ways for people? Because some people love, a little gift every year. Some people love a card. Some people just like to see you show up in their direct messages. So I say, embrace those different things and try things out, but don't feel pressure that you have to be on every social platform and every different, thing you can buy and all the different apps and stuff you can sign up for. There's a lot in our industry, right? So
find what works.
Find what works for you.
Watching the clock here, what last words, tips, inspiration can you share with anybody about anything we talked about? Again, going back to sort of the idea of today's topic around the art of sales on social media. What can you help everybody with, sort of to help them get out there and, build some more mind share?
Right. So I would just make the challenge of, for the next 30 days, keep it truly, truly simple. Facebook or Instagram, you pick. It could be both if you want. Going in and watching, doesn't have to be a lot. 3 stories, that's seconds of your day. And do not watch a story without commenting on it. Make it a game. Okay. And you don't have to watch everybody's all 17 of their stories. You can watch, up until one you want to comment on. Get yourself into the habit. You will see after 30 days that just doing that, not posting, not doing anything else, it will change your reach, your algorithm. It will impact things, and it will start that ball rolling. And that's so easy to do. I literally do that laying in bed before I have my coffee in the morning.
Awesome. So simple. Chelsea, where can people find you?
Find me on Instagram. That's the best place to get a hold of me. And it's just my name, chelsea.peitz. Find me on the gram, and lots of helpful trainings on my IGTV. If you want to learn all about Instagram, just watch all those videos. lots. Big bold letters, underlined, capital, exclamation marks. You are absolutely amazing. It's always a pleasure catching up with you, both live and, when it's just the two of us. But I appreciate you. Thank you again for your time and your insights today. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you. Thanks. Bye.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the 7 Ways to Communicate ebook to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve, and, how I will help you do just that. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.